This is 7 News at noon.
Off the top this afternoon, growing in the Gulf, Hurricane Milton getting stronger and getting bigger over the warm waters.
The storm creeping closer to Florida as millions brace for the second powerful hurricane in weeks.
Hundreds of thousands of people on the move, heading out of harm's way and heading our way. Traffic on Alligator Alley, bumper to bumper.
People riding it out, boarding up windows, doing whatever they can to protect their property from what will be a destructive strike.
In many areas in the middle of cleaning up from Helene, so much debris is still piled up and could turn into dangerous projectiles once Milton arrives. Good afternoon, South Florida. Nerve-wracking 2 days as the entire state holds its breath to see where exactly Milton will make landfall.
But despite what area takes a direct hit, many cities will be affected. That's why all South Florida public schools, Monroe, Miami-Dade, and Broward counties will be closed tomorrow. We have extensive storm coverage, beginning with meteorologist Erica Delgado. She is live in the Storm Center with the latest. Erica.
Well, Lorraine, at the end of the 10 o'clock newscast, we showed you that 11 a.m. advisory, and it had strengthened some. 150-mile-per-hour winds, still a very powerful, strong Category 4 hurricane. It's moving towards the east-northeast, so it's starting to lift north away from the Yucatan Peninsula. And later today, we'll begin to see that forward speed acceleration, which means it'll begin to move faster. The faster it moves away from the Yucatan Peninsula, the better. The less time it's sitting over the Gulf of Mexico, the better for the west coast of Florida. It's being It's being tracked out of the west coast of Florida from Tampa, about 520 miles southwest of the area. You can see still moisture over portions of South Florida in association with a front that is stalled across the area. We're now between two disturbances, one that's moving off the coast here of Florida, and then Milton, still far removed over the Gulf of Mexico. So it's still over very warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, so it's going to help maintain that powerful major hurricane status, for now remaining a Category 4 hurricane, and it looks like the latest forecast track keeps it a Category 4 through at least Wednesday morning. Now heading into Wednesday evening into early Thursday overnight, as it makes its closest approach to the west coast of Florida, likely maintaining its major hurricane status, maybe as a Category 3 hurricane. Landfall looks to be as far south as Fort Myers or as far north as areas around the Florida Big Bend from north of Tampa into Cedar Key. But effects and impacts will be felt all across the state of Florida, as the system is forecast to remain strong and grow in size before reaching the west coast of Florida. We have hurricane warnings still in effect for the northern tip of the Yucatan Peninsula. They've been getting hit hard since yesterday with hurricane force conditions. Still a hurricane watch from Rio Lagartos all the way to Cabo Catoche, just to the north of the Cancun area. And then heading into South Florida, we have a hurricane watch for the dry Tortugas, the southwest coast of Florida, and it includes the Lake Okeechobee region. But then we have hurricane warnings that are not only for the west coast of Florida, from Bonita Beach all the way to the mouth of the Suwannee River, but it also extends across the state through the east coast, Daytona Beach, Orlando, and just along the county line between Indian River and St. Lucie, we still have that hurricane warning. In addition, we have tropical storm warnings for all of South Florida, Palm Beach, Broward, Miami-Dade, and all of the Florida Keys. We are under a tropical storm warning until further notice through the Florida Big Bend as well. Now tropical storm watches extend from Georgia and the South Carolina coastline. Hurricane force winds will be felt across central Florida, both west and east, with tropical storm force winds for us here in South Florida, and that's why we're under that tropical storm warning. And in addition, with outer bands beginning to push through South Florida, we'll keep that chance of tornadoes come Wednesday into very early Thursday morning. Storm surge an issue not just for northern and for the west coast of Florida, but for the Florida Keys as well. Ahead of and behind the system, we could see 1 to 3 foot storm surge up to that across the Florida Keys. A reminder, we're approaching king tides, so water levels are already running higher than normal. And storm surge up and down the west coast, catastrophic, 6 to 10 feet possible from Port Charlotte to Fort Myers, up to 10 to 15 from the Tampa Bay area, St. Pete, that goes for Sarasota, and even around the Florida Big Bend and across the east coast. We could also see some of that storm surge as high as 2 to 5 feet, and that extends into portions of the Carolinas. We've been seeing on and off downpours. We're beginning to see a break in the rain, which was to be expected. The front is still stalled, so we'll see the occasional downpour, but a reminder that a flood watch is still in place for South Florida until Thursday morning. We'll take a closer look at that radar and your forecast for today and what to expect tomorrow. That's coming up in a few minutes.
All right, Erica, your storm station has you covered as millions along the Gulf Coast brace for the historic storm.
7's Jack Royer is live in Southwest Florida, an area no stranger to destructive hurricanes. But we begin this noon with 7's Danielle Garcia. She's live in Sarasota, the middle of the storm's projected path. Danielle.
Alex, now we are on Lido Beach, which is one of those barrier islands of Sarasota. And take a look here. The Sandcastle Hotel, quite literally looking like a sandcastle. All of the sand here was pushed in from the beach because of the storm surge of Hurricane Helene. And the good news here is it is very quiet. We are told that a lot of these people have evacuated from Hurricane Helene, which is very good news. And I want to take you over here to take a look at those debris piles that we have been telling you guys about all morning. This is either going to be floating garbage or flying projectiles. These are people's belongings. So many of these people have lost so much already, and they are bracing for what's next.
Basically, the entire peninsula portion of Florida is under some type of either a watch or a warning.
Governor Ron DeSantis updating Floridians early Tuesday as Hurricane Milton churns in the Florida Gulf. Right now, 51 counties are under a state of emergency, and 11 of those are under mandatory evacuation orders. One of those areas expected to take a hit is Tampa Bay.
Helene was a wake-up call. This is literally catastrophic, and I can say without any dramatization whatsoever, if you choose to stay in one of those evacuation areas, you're going to die.
Tampa Mayor Jane Castor sending a strong and somber message to residents as the area still is in the midst of cleanup and recovery efforts after Hurricane Helene slammed into Florida's Big Bend region last month, and people trying to evacuate already with a tough road ahead. I-75 gridlocked Tuesday morning in the Clearwater area.
We saw what happened the last hurricane, and so we thought, you know what, we're out of here.
I'm trying not to show that I'm scared, but yes, I'm scared.
Now, as Milton takes aim at the Gulf Coast once again, the storm now downgraded from a Category 5 to a Category 4 as of late Tuesday morning, but nonetheless powerful. Those living in especially high-risk areas simply told to get out.
We are preparing, and I have the State Emergency Response Team preparing for the largest evacuation that we have seen, most likely since 2017 Hurricane Irma.
Millions along the Gulf and in the storm's direct path already making their final preparations. Long lines as many spent part of the weekend filling up sandbags, hoping to hold back the worst of the flooding and trying to fill up their tanks with whatever gas they could.
They're getting extra gas. That's why all the gas stations are running out of gas, which is really stressful.
State officials ensuring Florida is prepared for the worst, even receiving aid from other states.
Just like we responded to North Carolina when they needed, states have come to Florida's aid. And so I just want to thank the states that have stepped up and helped us, whether it's a Chinook helicopter, whether it's some search and rescue personnel, you name it. We've had a number of states that have stepped up to help us.
As residents simply hope for the best.
Hey, it's Florida. You take the good with the bad. You better be strong. You have to be strong and just take one step at a time, one day at a time, and help your neighbor.
So I can tell you that a lot of these people are definitely taking this storm very seriously, especially because it's been so close after Helene. And for those homeowners that were impacted by Helene, they're certainly saying this is no joke. This is the time to take everything seriously. I spoke to a man who got 4 feet of water in his home in Sarasota. He said he gutted everything, and now he's just hoping the structure will be there when he comes back.
An eerily quiet morning in St. Armand Circle as the West Coast communities anxiously await for Milton's arrival. The silence interrupted by last-minute preps.
Community's going through a lot. You know, 2 hurricanes in a row is a lot.
Sarasota didn't get a direct hit from Helene, but they certainly felt the impacts. 4 to 5 feet of water went into businesses here, and now they have to prepare again.
It's been hectic, a lot of work hours, a lot of frustration on the homeowners, commercial end of the deal, everybody just trying to get everything out of their homes and their workplaces and trying to rebuild, but then here we are again.
It's quite high. We had 4 feet throughout the house, and it's quite devastating.
Glenn Callahan had never gotten water in his home in the 20 years he'd lived in Sarasota until about 2 weeks ago.
So now we just have to pick up. We have everything all cut out, so the bright side is if the house doesn't wash out, we can't get any more water in it.
Callahan is staying with his son and wife since they haven't been able to move back yet. But he and many others worry their homes and businesses won't be here when the storm passes.
I'm an old buck, you know, so it's not easy to go, but you just have to take one day at a time. So you just don't know what's going to be here when you come back.
You know, just keeping everybody safe is the most important thing. And we're a strong community, and, you know, Florida's resilient, and I'm just wishing everybody to be safe.
And this is quite literally the calm before the storm. We are now more than 24 hours from when the hurricane is set to make landfall. We are in this nerve-wracking holding pattern right now. Everybody here just hoping that for the best, but also bracing for the worst. No one really knows exactly where it's going to make landfall, exactly when, but they are praying that everything will be okay in the end. Reporting live in Sarasota, I'm Danielle Garcia, 7 News.
All right, Danielle, the entire Gulf Coast is at serious risk. Team coverage moves now to 7's Jack Royer in Fort Myers Beach with preparations there. Jack.
Lorena, the good news here from this portion of Southwest Florida is it seems that everyone is taking the evacuation orders seriously. We're in Fort Myers Beach, where you can still see quite a bit of construction for miles as we were coming in today. That, in many cases, is the remnants of Hurricane Ian from 2 years ago, with folks still cleaning up and, in this case, preparing once again for a devastating storm. Take a look at what we saw coming in on Alligator Alley as we headed westbound. A line of cars was heading eastbound, coming into Fort Lauderdale, into South Florida, and then just back-to-back traffic for what I estimated to be at least 25 or 30 miles of our journey. We saw folks heading away from the danger zone. Also today, the weather, the rain that's been dumping on South Florida continued today. We were driving through some of it, but now that we've gotten to Fort Myers Beach, things have cleared out a bit, at least for now. You'd almost have a hard time remembering a hurricane was coming if not for the eerie silence that is here, the lack of people, and only emergency responders for the most part driving around, because Fort Myers Beach is under a mandatory evacuation starting today at 3 p.m. It does seem most people have taken that seriously. I was communicating a moment ago with Fort Myers Mayor Kevin Anderson, who told me that they have done their part. They are ready to respond to this storm. Now it is on the citizens to do their part and get out of town if they can. We understand that that is challenging for people, but it does seem that most people here are heeding the warnings ahead of Milton. We will have more from Southwest Florida throughout the day here on 7 News. For now, I'm Jack Royer reporting live in Fort Myers, 7 News.
All right, Jack, and tons of traffic as those along the Gulf Coast pack it up and head east for safer conditions. Here's a live look of Alligator Alley. The eastbound lanes near mile marker 85 look like this. Jack showed us previously what it looked like a short time ago as people were heading east. 7's Brandon Beyer is along Alligator Alley and spoke to some of those who evacuated. Brandon, what did they tell you?
Alex, the ones that left early this morning, even yesterday, didn't see the kind of traffic that is on Alligator Alley right now. I want to show you again these pictures of eastbound lanes. So these are folks coming down from Tampa and then over, coming down a little bit from Sarasota, Naples, Fort Myers, and then over when you're talking about that amount of people all hitting the road, the same road at the same time, just trying to get out of harm's way. Well, this is what it's going to look like. Luckily, we did speak with, a handful of folks who had left earlier, left yesterday, early this morning, weren't seeing any issues. This is what people are seeing now. I even talked to a woman who took 441s at Tamiami Trail, so a lot less traffic on that road, she said. But they've even closed the westbound lanes as far as the express lanes go. That is east only. So if that's part of your commute, just know that for the foreseeable future, those lanes are just going to go east just to help move that heavy congestion, all that traffic off of Alligator Alley, off of Collier County as it make their way into Broward County. Talked with a family who was here because they're worried about their house, they're worried about their power, and they're hunkering down at a hotel for the next couple of days.
We recently just got through Helene in St. Petersburg. We live in Shore Acres, which is a neighborhood that tends to get flooded. So we just went through that about a week ago, and we're very scared about what's going to happen with our home. And my mom is on permanent oxygen, so we were fearful that we were going to lose power for too many days, and that's why we drove down here.
So they're safe from now. Just talk about a relief. Just finding a hotel wasn't easy for a lot of folks. Getting off the alley, getting out of that traffic, knowing that the hotel that they're in, we're in the Davie area. They basically come south on 75 till they get to Griffin, Sheridan. There's hotels obviously right off of 75 there. That's where those folks can remain safe for the next couple days before they have to go home and see what they're dealing with. Again, a traffic note here. Always the westbound lanes switch to the expressways on 595. That's not going to happen. They're going to keep that traffic moving east to help with the Alligator Alley situation. We are live in Davie this afternoon. Brandon Byer, 7 News.
All right, and our team coverage now continues with 7's Maricela Burgos live here in the Satellite Center with how other parts of Central Florida are now preparing. Maricela.
Alex, people are not taking any chances with this storm, especially because Central Florida is under a hurricane warning.
We're just trying to get refill on our propane tank, that's all.
Nearly 100 miles from where Hurricane Milton is expected to make landfall, people in Central Florida are waiting for their turn to fill up sandbags and get gas.
Fuel continues to arrive in the state of Florida by port.
Governor Ron DeSantis reassures Floridians there isn't a shortage.
Gas stations are running out quicker than they otherwise would. And so that is causing the state of Florida to help assist with the mission to be able to get fuel to the gas stations so that Floridians have access.
In Orange County, lines have been forming since yesterday.
I am a born Floridian, born and raised. I've seen what Charlie has done. So I think that just for the family's sake and just for everybody's sake, just to be prepared, because you just never know what kind of track or where this storm's going to go.
Highways around the Orlando area are busy as Floridians either evacuate or do last-minute preps ahead of the storm. Experts say expect impacts from this hurricane across the state.
We've just expanded hurricane warnings across the peninsula now all the way over to the East Coast, including the metro Orlando area, the Melbourne area, all the way up to places like St. Augustine, Ocala, now under hurricane warnings, Daytona Beach.
Michael Brennan, the director of the National Hurricane Center, says people need to be ready for wind damage, power outages, and flash flooding.
And especially concerned about that I-4 corridor, Tampa, Orlando, Daytona Beach, is seeing potentially some of the most severe impacts for multiple hazards.
This storm will be massive and have major impacts in our state. Moments ago, President Joe Biden spoke about Hurricane Milton's impact to Florida. Hear what he had to say.
This could be the worst storm to hit Florida in over a century. And God willing, it won't be, but that's what it's looking like right now. Most importantly, I've urged everyone currently located in Hurricane Milton's path to listen to local officials and follow safety instructions. You all have been reporting on the highways, shoulders being opened, everybody's heading out. And if you're under evacuation orders, you should evacuate now.
We know people are evacuating. The proof is in those traffic jams we've shown you that are happening throughout the state. If you do have family or friends in Central Florida, let them know shelters in Orange County open today by 6 p.m. In the Satellite Center, Maricela Burgos, 7 News.
Happening right now, Miami-Dade Mayor Daniela Levine Cava is speaking ahead of Hurricane Milton. Let's listen in.
Our Public Safety Committee, and also we're in his district. We're also going to hear from our State Attorney, Catherine Fernandez-Rundle, and our Chief of Public Safety, James Reyes. We'll have a Creole interpretation after all of those, and we will have many of our directors who are here who can respond directly to your questions. We're working very closely with elected leaders throughout the county. We're having regular briefings with our cities, with our schools, universities, other major institutions, and we're doing a great job of coordinating and sending out a coordinated message. Very, very proud of the work that we're doing together, preparing for the potential impacts of this storm. Hurricane Milton is now a Category 4 hurricane. It's heading towards landfall on the west coast of Florida. The storm is expected to bring life-threatening storm surge for the Tampa Bay area and West Coast, even now as they are recovering still from last week's Hurricane Helene. Our community continues to pray for all of those who were devastated by Helene and for the ongoing safety of all of those in Milton's path. And while this storm has slowed down just a bit, it is expected to grow in size. It's a major storm, and it is very important that we remain prepared as our community will be affected by the outer bands of the storm. We are now under a tropical storm warning. The most likely impacts here in Miami-Dade include heavy rainfall, localized flooding, sustained tropical force winds of at least 49 miles per hour starting as early as tonight. The Emergency Operations Center is activated at a level 2 to ensure that our community is ready to respond. County services, including water and sewer, our transit services, Metro Rail, Metro Bus, and Metro Mover, currently remain open. All non-essential county government offices will be closed tomorrow, Wednesday. As we continue to closely monitor impacts over the coming days, we will keep the community updated on any other service changes. As we shared with you yesterday, we have announced voluntary evacuation of mobile home parks. The E. Darwin Fuchs Pavilion, which is located at 10901 Coral Way, is a pet-friendly evacuation center for mobile home residents who wish to relocate, strictly mobile home residents only. And we are providing transportation to assist mobile home residents who are voluntarily evacuating. It is very important that anyone affected call 311 or submit an online form requesting assistance that can be found at miamidade.gov/Milton to request transportation assistance. And 311 is open for extended hours until 10 p.m. this evening. All of our county departments have been aggressively preparing and responding to flooding over the last few days. And yesterday, our Parks Department began distribution of sandbags at 9 regional parks countywide. We've already successfully distributed over 70,000 sandbags to residents in need, and the majority of these sites have already closed or are going to close shortly, based on the enormous demand. And I also want to give extra special thanks to the many.
And we're just hearing from Miami-Dade Mayor Daniela Levine Cava. She's talking about how we are under a tropical storm warning and how we're preparing for the effects of Hurricane Milton and what effects may be felt here in Miami-Dade County. She's reminding everyone about the closures tomorrow. All public schools are closed, and she also reminded that there are voluntary evacuations for those in mobile home parks.
And as we continue here, our coverage, South Florida is already soaked, and the rain doesn't seem to be letting up anytime soon. That could spell a flood of trouble as Milton nears.
7's Alex Browning is live in Hollywood, an area that's prone to flooding. Alex.
And ladies, despite more rain coming ahead of Milton, it's been a bit of a break here, at least in Hollywood, from that rainfall, allowing whatever more water the ground can soak up and giving a chance for these pumps here across low-lying areas in South Florida to catch up.
Emergency pumps running around the clock in low-lying neighborhoods in Broward. Crews topping one off in Hollywood along North 14th Avenue, an area prone to flooding.
During the rain bomb, we had about 2 feet of water. So I know they've built trenches all along, like the golf course here. So they're doing that, and I would say maybe 2 weeks they've had this here. Do you see a difference? You know, I actually do see a bit of a difference.
A big difference a day makes. The area inundated by standing water Monday. Cars even stalled out further north in Pompano. In Fort Lauderdale's Edgewood, pumps clearly making a difference. An area that's seen devastating flooding in the past, now mostly dry.
Our main concern is just these trees and the flooding.
As South Florida prepares for whatever Milton brings our way.
Hurricanes can be unpredictable, and we do not want any loss of life or property. So stock up, make sure you take care of your preparations, avoid flooded areas, and most of all, stay safe.
We don't know if it's going to change course, what type of rain it's going to bring, what type of winds are going to come. So it's a lot of unknown.
Unknowns including how quickly the rain will fall over the next 2 days. Usually stormwater systems here in South Florida can only handle about 2 to 3 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. We're in Hollywood. Alex Browning, 7 News.
All right, Alex, and now to 7's Jordan Segundo and how to protect your property. He is live at a Sandbag distribution center in Southwest Miami-Dade. Jordan, you're at Tropical Park now?
Yeah, that's right, Alex. We're here at Tropical Park, and it's been a mad dash for a lot of South Florida residents to get their hands on these sandbags. Now, for residents who brave the line, someone told me it took 3 hours for them to get to this area. This park, though, has turned into a self-service sand distribution center, so residents here will have about 4 to 6 bags to fill. Luckily, there are some volunteers to help, but again, it is all to help prepare for the storm as Hurricane Milton inches closer and closer to the Sunshine State. Cars lining up once again early Tuesday morning at Tamiami Park in Southwest Miami-Dade for a chance of getting sandbags ahead of Hurricane Milton's arrival. 2 hours later, the 28 pallets of sand at Tamiami Park were nearly gone. Miami-Dade opening 9 sandbag distribution centers at local parks throughout the county so residents can prepare for the storm. Sandbags also being offered for residents of Miami Beach, workers and volunteers helping to load sandbags in the back of vehicles.
I'm here just to get some sandbags just in case the storm, veers this way. I'm on the ground floor, so here on South Beach, I just don't want to have water come into my house.
And in Opalaca, this machine loading bags of sand all at once so residents can just pick up and go. Back in Southwest Miami-Dade, Ana Giron placing her sandbags in front of her front door.
So it's super important just because we don't really know how much rain is going to come our way with this hurricane. So, it's better to be safe than sorry.
Sandbags have been on the top of mind for people who live in low-lying areas, hoping the sand will help prevent water from coming into their homes.
I go up to the garage, so I need to protect the garage so the water won't not go in any further.
We live near a canal, so there's like a higher chance of it flooding there. So me, my dad, and my family want us to just be on the safe side.
Broward County also opening up 9 locations again on Tuesday and hopes residents there take advantage of the free sandbags.
2 years ago, I completely lost my house because I was just like, hurricane, schmurricane. So this time around, I want to make sure that I'm prepped.
So again, preparation is key when it comes to getting ready for this storm. Again, if you still would like to get your hands on some sandbags here at Tropical Park, it is still open, but I'll tell you the line is quite long. But once you get up here, you will be able to get a few sandbags to take home to protect your property. Now, there is a complete list on our website. Just head over to WSVN.com to see which locations are still open and available for you to get your sandbags. The only other option would be to head over to your local hardware store and try to get those sandbags there. Reporting live from Southwest Miami-Dade, Jordan Segundo, 7 News.
All right, Jordan, stay with the storm station for complete continuing coverage of Hurricane Milton. We have crews bringing you the latest conditions from Key West to Sarasota throughout the day.